present on the program as well. We may need, does that look good all right there, Keith? We're good?
We're good. Can you hear me? Test, 1, 2, 3,
I
test.
had to break out a
Gotcha.
little building skills to fix a couple of things.
I'm
The window wouldn't
impressed
close
there,
right.
Keith. Very impressed. Viewers and listeners, join us in the show. Lonnie Murray, thank you for watching the program. Kelly Jackson, hello. Kyle Irvin over at the Charlottesville Police Department, the communications director. He's fantastic. Brittany Gray, realtor, hello. Olivia Branch, Miss Keswick, welcome to the program. Chad Wood, Mr. Croze, hello. Carol Thorpe, the Whitehall, no, that's the Jack Jewett District, Carol Thorpe. Heather Walker, Miss Johnson Village, Holly Foster in Bermuda, Juan Sarmiento, hello, welcome to the program. Thank you kindly for joining us on the show. Viewers and listeners, we'll have some fun. Tim Carson, always like when you watch the show or join us on the set. Andre Xavier, Mustache Dan Pettit, hello, welcome to the program. The Real Estate 3 realtor, Mustache Dan Pettit, we love that guy. A handful of agents watching the program, more to follow. Judah, we can start the program when you are ready, sir. Good Friday morning, guys. My name is Jerry Miller, and thank you kindly for joining us on Real Talk with Keith Smith. We enjoy talking real estate, Central Virginia, Albemarle County, the city of Charlottesville, and beyond on Real Talk with Keith Smith, the show that airs anywhere you get your social media and podcasting content. Judah Wickower, behind the camera, our director and producer, just an all-around fantastic human being. Keith Smith, the star of our show, and we have two guests that I think may be household names, Dave Norris and Greg Slater, in today's house and on set and in the studio. Judah, if you can go to the studio camera and then a four-shot as we welcome a true cast of characters. Keith Smith, my friend, good Friday morning to you.
Which characters are we? That's the key thing.
I just follow your lead on Real Talk with Keith Smith.
Oh, boy. Then we're all in trouble. That's all I got to tell you before we get started. Right, I titled this episode Lessons from Legends, and I'm trying to see if I'm far enough away from him so his head gets bigger. We truly have two legends in our local economy. We've got a legend of a real estate agent, a legend of now an executive director for Charlottesville Area Association of Realtors Foundation, but a legend in many other different things, to include officiating, not sport events. These are marriages. So for a quick 2 or 3 people who do not know who you guys are, Dave, we're going to start with you. Tell us who you are, what you're currently doing, and your life story.
Great to be back with you
All
guys.
right, we're done. Next.
This guy.
He is a character.
Oh, man.
No, it's always a pleasure to be back on the show. Dave Norris, former mayor, city councilor, longtime nonprofit director, and just guy about town, and I'm really thrilled for the last 4 months to be wearing the hat as executive director of the new Charlottesville Area Association of Realtors Foundation. And we'll talk more about what that is later, but it's basically an effort by the Realtors Association to be part of the affordable housing solution here in our region. So we look forward to talking about what that looks like. And this is my boss.
Thank you.
Okay, boss. You're next.
Yeah, if only. Yeah, I'm Greg Slater. I'm with Nest Realty, and I moved here in 1996 to get into this business. I was licensed in 1997, and I've been doing this ever since. I enjoy helping builders and buyers and sellers engage with this market, and when I'm not doing that, I enjoy the energy efficiency of our housing conversation, and maybe more importantly, the affordable housing conversation. And I've served a long time with Keith in this space on the community land trust level, getting that model to where it is. But now I focus my attention. I'm the chair of the Carr Foundation this year, and get to work with Dave Norris.
You brushed over the green thing pretty quickly, but a little kudos to you. I mean, we would not be having, as I'm looking at Paragon right now, the green features in our listing so people could know about the energy efficiency. If it wasn't for you.
We overhauled the MLS. We were the first MLS in the country to have the green features included. that was in part because Cynthia Adams, the founder of Pearl Certification, was from here at the time.
And one of our sponsors of this show.
Yes, and the most recent thing I'm proud of that isn't quite public information yet, that is coming soon, but we're about to have our first continuing education on solar for realtors in the state of Virginia, available later this year.
We're about ready to, Yona and I are about ready to do a listing in Belvedere, and much like the Nassau houses that we built, they're actually it's $7 a month that this guy pays.
great.
But we're here to talk a little bit about the Carr Foundation. So, Greg, I'm going to give you a break and let the executive director tell us a little bit the who, what, when, where, why.
I'm actually going to punt on that one because Greg tells it much better than I
Okay.
do. If you don't mind,
No
Greg's has the history with the Carr Foundation from the beginning and tells
Yeah.
a great story about how it all came together.
We're
And
rather
then-
fluid here.
And then I can talk about sort of what we're doing now and what we're
Mr.
yeah.
Former Mayor, we're
Yeah.
rather fluid here. So
Yeah.
tell us the who, what, when, and where, why.
I like to start with pre-recession leadership at Carr, very interested in figuring out where Carr's seat at the table was going to be, and as affordable housing conversation was going, as that run-up in values happened. And after many, many, many board meetings, I think that board understood it was complex and it was hard to figure out where to fit in and how to be impactful in there. And that leadership at the time decided, you know what, we're just going to raise some money and we're going to be the difference from what a home costs and what someone can afford to close the gap and help people get into some homes. So we're going to help teachers, firefighters, nurses, and police officers. It was called the Carr Workforce Housing Fund. We raised a few $100,000 and put that into the community. Years later, they were put in there as liens against the property that accrued a little bit of interest, but were paid back when the home was sold. And that money has come back. And with those funds, I think it's been 5 or 6 years now, the concept of Carr having its own foundation was established because this may be in the weeds, but the Charlottesville Area Association of Realtors is not a nonprofit.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's an industry association, and they wanted to have a nonprofit wing for the purposes of corralling and focusing all of the resources of our membership, because it's a vast membership that has a lot of different backgrounds and different resources and connections. And the Carr Foundation was born a few years ago. And as I was wrapping up my time on the Community Land Trust Board, I always wanted to be involved with the foundation. And when I joined 3 years ago, and for my first year, I realized it had just gotten this 501c3 status, and it was time to build the organization. And we immediately moved to using the resources provided by Carr to move in that direction of a strategic plan.
So we're going to talk about how and what, and I'm going to pick apart a specific example about how much money this really is going to take to make a difference. I prefer the term housing affordability over affordable housing, but that's my own personal thing. But one of the things we constantly talk about on the show is, as real estate professionals, we volunteer a ton of time. So I'm going to give kudos to you, because you and I have been at the table, at the forefront for a long time to go ahead and put a lot of time and energy into it. But Dave, so, how is this foundation going to make a difference?
Yeah, it's a great question. I mean, you two are excellent examples of how the realtor community here wants to be part of the affordable housing solution and has worked diligently to be part of the affordable housing solution or housing affordability solution.
You just got brownie points.
And so we want to leverage, as Greg was saying, leverage the time, talents, and treasure of the broader realtor community to get involved as well. And we've sort of identified initially, at least, like 4 programmatic focus areas for the Carr Foundation. One, we've been talking about raising money. We want to continue to do that. We want to raise even more money with it, both within the Carr community and its affiliate network and the broader community, to invest in effective, innovative, affordable housing solutions. And so we are part of a new funders collaborative to create a strike fund for the Community Land Trust, which I know is near and dear to both of your hearts. You've been both involved in building that organization and getting it to where it is now, and it's increasingly a very effective tool for making home ownership affordable for moderate income, working class Charlottesvillians. And so that's an initiative we're strongly behind, and we want to invest in other solutions as well. We want to be good advocates for public policy that helps increase access to affordable housing in our region. We are looking to engage volunteers from within the CAR community to get involved personally and being part of the solution. And we've got an initiative we'll be kicking off this fall to recruit CAR members to serve as mentors for first-time home buyers, so really excited about that. And then we want to just get involved in education and awareness raising about affordable housing needs and opportunities and resources in our community. So we've got another exciting initiative we'll be announcing soon along those lines. So from a variety of angles, we're looking to be part of the solution, and we alone can't solve the problem, but this is as Greg said, the realtor community here is very well positioned, wants to be at the table, wants to promote solutions, and I think we can make a big impact.
I'm going to let Jerry do the Robert Liberty quote that I've totally plagiarized and stole from, which I have permission, which makes it not plagiarism. But anyway, it takes
It's not a silver bullet, it's a silver buckshot.
That's right.
And you guys are part of the solution of creating housing affordability here in the Charlottesville, Albemarle, and Central Virginia market. We're seeing this with a number of ways. I'm a huge proponent of the land trust and what you guys are doing. The flexible zoning is another solution where if you loosen the zoning, potentially more supply comes to market, additional supply stabilizes prices. Is that what's happening? Maybe we talk about that some on this program. I think you have some data points
I do.
that we can highlight.
Yeah, so to visually see what the struggle is. This is very high level, but Jude, if you don't mind putting slide number 1 up, this is the one that I have in front of you, gentlemen. So at the end of the day, this is 2016 to 2024, first 6 months. It's a big search, right? It's all the CAR footprint. Thanks to my friend Greg here, we've narrowed it down to the CAR origination because it gets a little wonky with some of the Louisa County numbers. But the short version of it is, as far as market volume goes, as those in the profession, we're kind of at 2016 volumes. But what's important for this conversation about housing affordability, we're up, I did the math, actually the percentage calculator on my laptop did the math, from 175 to 465 between 16 and 2024, we're up 70%. And I want to get into,
You're talking about home values?
home values. Okay. Median values have gone up 70% in 8 to 9 years, depending on how you look at the math.
And wages have not.
Excuse me?
And wages have not.
Yeah, and wages have not, right?
And wages have not, and cost of goods, groceries, fuel have all escalated in price.
But
so this is the death of the quintessential death of 1,000 cuts. Yeah.
But I'm on as the chair of the Land Trust and the Strike Fund, and I'm just going to throw this out here. Zoning is a good idea. All this other stuff's great, but at the end of the day, this is money. Money is going to make the difference, because we'll talk a little bit about a project that the Land Trust is doing at Lake Monticello. We're trying to branch outside of Charlottesville to go to some of the surrounding counties, simply because our subsidy dollars go further, right? Which is no different than the buyer, right, Greg? Right? The buyer is looking outside of the Charlottesville, Albemarle market because we're trying to get somewhere down to something folks can afford. I'm going to let you pick it up for you because I can see in your eyes you want to say something.
I hate to use the phrase, but it's drive till you qualify, right? And
we banned that here, by the way. But
okay, but it was happening before the recession, and then we went through what we went through, and now we're getting to a point where I think you guys talk about it on the show all the time, that builders are targeting opportunities outside of Albemarle County as well, with the growth in the valley and the coming growth in Greene County. It might be surprising to some people how many lots are coming there.
We should talk about that.
Yeah, so one of the things I do is talk to the builders and developers all the time to stay in tune with this stuff. But Southern Development Homes has about 1,000 lots in the pipeline in Greene County, and they're partnering with Stanley Martin and Ryan Homes. So they're not going to build all of those homes, but they are developing the lots. And of all the things happening, I think this could be one of the most impactful. I'm not sure how to compare that to what's happening over in Waynesboro with the national builders showing up and the growth that's happening there. But
not at that, I can assure you it's not at that volume.
Yes, and so I've had a couple of brief examples, in northern Albemarle County. Like, for example, Southern Development Homes got a hold of the last lots of Wexford recently. which are larger lots in a community that's been around for a long time. And we were both shocked at how fast those homes absorbed into the market because it's really just across the county line. I guess some people still have the perception whether or not they want to be inside or outside of Albemarle County is a pretty big line for some people when it comes to schools and other things. But I think that 29 North Corridor and more opportunities for new construction in Greene County and southern Greene County specifically is going to be very helpful to the conversation.
Jerry and I speak up to this all the time. Greene County will be probably for the next decade the place where new construction is going. The volume is going to uptick. There's 1,000 that you know of. I know of another 500 that's off book that hasn't started yet. So you know there is anywhere between 1,000 to 2,000 lots coming on the market over the course of time there, which is a pretty large chunk on it. But Dave, you know, going back to how the foundation can help, this is a big nut, right? And you know, from my perspective, if you give me more money, I can solve a problem, right? You know, so how are we going to do this? How are we going to raise it? And before you answer that, just to put it in perspective, I've got asked this question all the time: what is affordable? I can tell you what it is to a number. We're doing basically to hit 80% AMI, you can't go over 250. Really need to be about $225,000. So anything north of that, whatever model you're looking at, is some sort of subsidy. So how are we going to raise money, Dave?
Yeah, and one thing I'll add,
And I'm broke, by the way.
just to make things even more complicated, is the fact, you know, where the Carr Foundation isn't just focused on home ownership. It's certainly a primary focus, but looking at the wide range of housing needs in our community, we've obviously got a very visible challenge regarding homelessness in our community. You see it all the time on the downtown mall. We've got, you know, issues with rental housing. Rents are going up significantly higher than wages. So it's an across the board. And so our foundation is going to do our best to raise money from within the realtor community to be, you know, to contribute and be part of the solution from a financing end. But it's also, again, how do you leverage the resources and the power, if you will, of this community, the Carr community, to impact public policy, to be at the table at forums like the Regional Housing Partnership.
I just read my note.
Which, thanks to Keith Smith, we were just invited last week to be a standing member of the Regional Housing Partnership to bring that voice and perspective to those conversations about coordinating policy on the regional level. Again, getting Carr members involved with volunteers, awareness raising, advocacy, anything that we can do to tap into the time, talents, and treasure of the realtor community to be part of the solution, we're going to do. So
I would like to add, and I think it's important for your audience to understand, we are not just a realtor foundation. We're not just a realtor board. We have established a set of bylaws that will always be 51% realtor board, but we have two members that aren't realtors on our board now. The first was Christopher Bremen of Bramante Homes. We wanted a partnership. We wanted somebody from the...
And a shout out to him, right? Because we would have never done our Nassau projects if he didn't step
That's right.
up to
He
plate.
believes in the cause of affordable housing and has put his money where his mouth is. And we just added Alex Mahone, a local lender, to be on our board. And so this year's board is now full. Every year we'll have seats become available. We're interested in finding the right community partners that complement real estate and are interested in these topics that will grow our reach and our influence. So we can raise money within our organization, but we hope to become a steward of funds from our expertise and the board we establish and all of the processes we set up, that people that want to be impactful in this space will see us as a place to park their money because of the people we put together to figure out how to put it into play. And I'm super excited about the concept of a fund that is recyclable to help nonprofits acquire properties before they go into the hands of the free market and become something else. And that concept is definitely one of our goals, to help be a part of that and help it come to fruition on a larger scale. It's already happened on a few projects, and we have proof of the results of what can happen.
How does a nonprofit acquire property before it goes on the market? Just out of curiosity.
We're talking about organizations like the Piedmont Housing Alliance and the Community Land Trust, right?
Yes.
going out there and putting something under contract so they can turn it into what it wants to be. I'm sure Keith has shared many examples.
No, well, look, we built a better mousetrap, in my opinion. The land trust is a really good mousetrap. We fine-tuned what's already been there, and it's functioning great. At the end of the day, it's all about money, right? We get phone calls, the executive director gets phone calls all the time about, to Jerry's question, hey, I'm about ready to put this on the market, right? Would you be willing to buy it? The thing is if it's in Charlottesville, we're paying $450, $550, $650, $750 to acquire it, but I only can sell it for $225. So the question is that, the math difference, where in God's holy name is that coming from? And this is a strike fund, I love it, but this is a button that I'm personally been pushing. Look, we're making magic happening out in Lake Monticello, somewhere between $50,000 and $75,000 today. I don't think I can do it tomorrow. We're making some magic happen. In Charlottesville, you got to put a couple of zeros before that 50,000 or 75,000. You're looking at 250, 350, 450 of subsidy to make that happen. And these are huge nuts, right? These are a huge amount of money. And my struggle is where we're going to get it from. And we got to do it, in my opinion, quickly, because as the market starts chugging along, we're going to be losing opportunities.
It's definitely all about the money, but I think some of the path to that money is education and awareness and being a resource for people who are interested in this conversation but don't know where to start. And then our strategic plan is to become that resource for realtors in the community beyond, right? What was the partnership, you can speak to it better than I, that developed kind of organically right when we started having this conversation?
Are you talking about with Charlottesville Tomorrow?
Yes.
Yeah. So we haven't actually publicly announced it yet, but
There you go.
Yeah, both Charlottesville Tomorrow and the Charlottesville Association of Realtors Foundation, independent of the other, had been having conversations about how there are a lot of housing resources in this community, but it's hard to know what they are and who can access them, who's eligible for them. And they had put out an editorial saying, you know what, we're just going to put one together, this online housing resource guide ourselves. And we had already kicked around the idea of doing our own online housing resource guide. And so one of our board members said, why don't we just talk to each other and sit down at the table?
It's amazing how that talking to one another makes a difference.
And we had an incredibly fruitful conversation, and we realized we'll get so much more done by working together on this. So later this fall, we'll be launching a new online housing resource guide, which I think is going to be very user-friendly, very accessible, very comprehensive. The foundation hired a summer intern to do a lot of the data gathering for this guide. He's created a voluminous
So
set
it's like a one-stop shop. So
Exactly.
It's a playbook, right? You got a playbook of housing affordability. Is
Good
that
for
what you're
you.
doing here?
Yeah, it's
Well
like for anybody who wants information on how to get support in buying a first-time home. Go online, you can find out all the local resources, very well organized, very user-friendly, like I said. Or it could be how to find affordable rental housing, or it could be how do I find information about housing needs in the community? What kind of studies have been done to lay out the scope of the problem? So we're really excited. Again, it happened organically, and I think CAR is sort of very well positioned with all the connections that it has and the history that it has to help make those connections happen, and it's pretty exciting.
Well, as you know, the Regional Housing Partnership is built on these 4 pillars, right? And it's local governments, for-profits, nonprofits, and the people who we serve on it. And to have that conversation, I'm excited to have you share that with the Regional Housing Partnership Board. And have you shared that with their staff yet?
They know that it's in the works.
Got it,
Yeah.
perfect. Good.
I want to go back to what you were talking about before, Keith, regarding the Community Land Trust. We had an open house at the end of last month. The CAR Foundation, our first public event, was an open house for the realtor community and our affiliates to learn more about the land trust models. You guys have a very exciting project underway over there on Prospect Avenue.
Yeah.
And I think it's a perfect example of the impact of the CLT model, where at least 4 of the 5 homes along Prospect Avenue were
4 sold.
purchased and renovated, and at least 4 of the 5 have been sold or are being sold to renters from the community
Literally across the street.
across the street.
Literally across the
Right.
street, moving out of subsidized housing, for lack, whatever
Right.
you would wish to call it,
Yeah.
across my New York 60s almost came out, 60s and 70s almost came out and called it something else, but I caught myself in it.
Right.
They're moving literally across the street. That's also at sub 60% AMI. Too.
Exactly. Those houses are selling for 160, right?
Yeah, that's exactly
In
right.
the city of Charlottesville to have
Yeah.
With solar.
with solar.
Yeah. Yeah. So
And they're beautifully renovated, I think. So
But it's examples like that that we can help maybe shine a brighter light on within the car membership to help members. And I don't think we fully unlock the potential of the car membership and all of its resources and networks to be as impactful as we want to be in this space.
Literally, so I was talking off air before we came on, this house at Lake Monticello that we're selling, I'm at 50 to 1. I've had 50 conversations, 50 potential buyers to possibly spit out one. We were doing, when we were like 10 to
Yeah,
to
it was
50.
before interest rates went up.
That's exactly right. But the great news is, and you've taught me this, I've got 50 real estate agents that know more about the land trust.
That's right. When you're that listing agent for a
Yeah.
CLT opportunity, you get to
Because
give a
inevitably,
lot of elevator
the
pitches.
first question
Yeah.
is, tell me what the heck this is, and how can I explain this to my client?
This question's come in. Is the land trust model going to expand potentially into the valley where housing affordability is more realistic?
So I only can speak from my perspective as the chair, not for the board, but this is something I've been trying to put together to do a more regional approach, which includes Richmond. There are conversations with Maggie Walker. There is, to the best of my knowledge, there is not a land trust on the other side of the hill. So we're looking at trying to create a more regional approach to the point, we call it you fly to qualify now. You know, you pretty much can't drive. You got to fly to get to it as a joke. But yes, we're looking into that. It's extremely difficult to bring all the bodies together and be on the same page, but that conversation is definitely
We
happening.
had a member of the home building community association in Lynchburg who heard about what we were doing in
Yeah.
Charlottesville through a builder connection
Yeah.
that's been involved with the CLT, and they came to that event just for their first look at what a CLT can do because they want to learn what it's capable of and whether or not they want one in Lynchburg.
So again, you know, I'm a bit partial to the land trust. I do need to say there's other organizations out there.
Yeah.
And we're going to support them all the best
Right.
we can. That's
you
true.
know, Habitat does a wonderful job. Everybody has their own little secret formula, right? Ours works well under a certain scenario. Habitat's works well also under a certain scenario. There's some crossover where we work together, which is wonderful.
We should highlight Roger Voisinay watching the program right now, Neil Williamson watching the program, Lottie Murray watching the program, Jesse Rutherford watching the program, Albemarle County Board of Supervisor and a city councilor watching the program right now.
So I want to give a shout out to Neil. Neil corrected me on something a bunch of shows ago, and I thanked him for doing it. I got a little bit on my high horse saying, you know, hey, it's a great time that the real estate agents are starting to get into this. They've always been involved in it, right? I was wrong, he was right. But I'm ecstatic that it's gone to the next level, right? It's gone to the next level where there's more engagement. More folks are going to be attending meetings and having a conversation because at the end of the day, we're at the tip of the spear, right, as real estate professionals of communicating with clients on how to do this and getting yourself educated to do it. But a shout out to him, and he corrected me, and I was wrong, and he was right.
I'll throw this topic, and Dave, you wanted to jump in a couple moments ago. Do you want to get that thought out there? You want me to go?
no, go ahead.
Okay,
Yeah.
so I'll throw this topic to you guys. And Judy, you put the graph that Keith sent to us back on screen, if you could. So in 2016, this
Slide
one
one.
right here, this is a fantastic
Slide
slide
one.
right here.
Slide one.
This is a microcosm of how. I mean, you could characterize it as unaffordable the area has become. Also, you could characterize it as a microcosm of the strength of the local economy, right? You could characterize it that way. So I'll throw this to you. In 2016, the median value for a home sold in the car footprint was $275,000.
And I want to add something to that because I looked at it this morning. Mortgage rates were between 4.5 and 5% back in those days.
Right. So 2016, you had 275,000 median value. 2024, median value 465. Depending on where you shop, your mortgage rate on a 30 fixed with good credit, good numbers, probably around the 7% number. Just call it, for the sake of a talk show, 7%. I'll throw this to Greg, to Dave, to Keith. You got Albemarle County investing, $58 million to buy some land from Wendell, Mr. Wood, Rivanna Station on the Greene County, Albemarle County line, to keep the defense sector firmly planted here. We have Amazon investing $11 billion into Louisa County. We got the $180 million data science school, and then Paul Manning's $100 million biotech school, all kind of coming to market now. We got Northrop Grumman with $250 million factory in Waynesboro, with everyone working at that factory, an average salary of $94,000 for those folks. I would imagine a lot of those folks are probably going to live in the Crozet area and then commute to Waynesboro. We had CNBC calling Virginia the best state to do business, third time in 5 years. We had CNBC and Bloomberg calling the Charlottesville area a top 20 metro area in the nation to work hybridly and remote. UVA expanding enrollment, more bodies moving here.
And its research parks.
Yeah, and its research parks. And Weldon Cooper puts out data by 2050, Albemarle County's population is going to increase between 40 and 50,000 people. So I'm going to throw this to you here. How do all these factors and all these forces impact housing affordability? And how about the folks that say that this graph is an indication that the economy is super strong and healthy? And we want to see those numbers continue to go upward.
Well, one of the things we talk about the most in as realtors, because it's easy data to track, is the inventory problem, right? The lack of resales, the locked-in effect, and not having the supply we need to make more transactions. And for a while now, I think realtors have figured out when you list a home, there are the comps, which may be few and far between, but you really have to measure demand and have some feel for the amount of demand at any particular price point to price a home, right? And it's a calculated guess in a lot of ways, but you just described it. It's a multifaceted problem we've created here. The locked-in effect of interest rates going up and people hanging on to homes with lower interest rates that they don't want to let go, coupled with part of it is economic growth. Part of it was the sheer desirability of Albemarle County in Central Virginia in the wake of a pandemic. People reevaluated their lives and decided where they wanted to live and when didn't want to live. And as a Hokie in Charlottesville, I can tell you, Wahoos want to come back, right? I often have to explain to people, we used to have a newspaper called The Hook, right? They don't know that Charlottesville was the hook that brought people back. And we're seeing it in real time. And, I run a variety of ways. I try to figure out what's going on. And I pulled the 4 years before the pandemic and the 4 years after the pandemic and compared things by price point. And the price point that jumped out to me the most was there was a 242% increase in sales from
Sales price.
Sales price from 1.5 to 2 million.
Yeah.
Right? That was the biggest increase of people could afford homes in that price point. And it's both the prices going up, but it's people coming here that can afford them. And
Well, that's indicative of the 465 median, right? Because that's sitting in the middle. So that means there's stuff way above it and stuff
That's right.
way below it.
That's right.
I'll let you finish your thought.
That's basically it. I'm not sure what it's going to take to unlock the inventory. The beneficiary of this are the builders trying to get as many homes out as they can. The builder sales, if you look at all these things historically, the builder sales are actually the most in line with things historically, where, when I compare things to that average 5-year period before the pandemic, the resale listing activity in this market is 37% off of what we could have expected the 5-year average from 2015 to 2019. 37% off. It's a tremendous number.
So, Judah, we'll take a look at slide 2 now, if you don't.
Let's get Dave's got a thought
sure.
on this.
Well, I just want to say, if you look across the country, just getting back to your question, Jerry, if you look across the country, the communities that have the least problem, the lowest problem with housing affordability are the communities where the economy is tanking, right? And so that's just sort of a natural result of people. There's more supply than demand. And obviously we have the opposite problem here, which is in many ways a good problem to have. But in order to make sure that, as I have said on your program before, in order to make sure that the people that do the hard work of making this community function can actually afford to live here, we have to be very deliberate and intentional in making sure we have a supply of affordable housing, including deeply affordable housing. And that's why the Regional Housing Partnership is so important. That's why the Community Land Trust, all these other nonprofits, and that's why...
Foundation?
What's that?
Your foundation?
Well, I was just going to say, and that's why I think the realtor community is really stepping up and wanting to step up in an even bigger way to make sure we're making those investments and creating the kind of public policy that does ensure, there's this great T-shirt I saw recently that says it's not paradise if the locals can't afford to live here. And so we want to make sure the locals can afford to live here. And so that's why this work is so important. But go ahead. I know you were
Well,
about to.
I mean, Jerry's outlined it very articulately. Or I can't even say whatever. Very
you
well.
said
There you go. Very well. Like I lost a big word. I tried it. I was going to try. Okay, let me try to impress people. Went downhill.
A for effort, Keith.
Big word. He used a big word that I can't say. But if you take a look at slide number 2, this is your new construction stuff. Again, it's big picture stuff. It's all of the car footprint. It's only in the car or originating board, and it's both a single family attached and detached. So this is this new construction. To your point, it kind of follows a normal thing. You can see some of the inventory coming up and coming down. A lot of that has to do with these projects are anywhere between half a decade and a decade in the can before they actually get built, right, in the development process, which is something we really need to figure out how to fix. But the question I wanted to ask you two gentlemen, so let's say we got wands here somewhere. If we have a magic wand and somehow or another can build more inventory, is that going to make it better? If we build more, is that going to stabilize prices, and is that going to keep things more at a level increase?
From an economic standpoint, historically, yes, it should. But, I think what we're seeing right now is with the maxing out of what we can achieve in our new construction environment, right? The delay of getting lots to the market and the number of builders we have here and the homes they're trying to create. I'm excited about some of the stuff that's right on the horizon, but some of the stuff right on the horizon we've been talking about for 3 years, right? Next year, we're going to start selling homes in X community. And then the following year, in the spring, next year, we're going to start selling. It keeps getting pushed.
We're correct. The whole 1,000 lots you're talking about at Greene County, that's probably not it's not going to hit the market to the end 2025.
If I put my Home Builders Association hat on, you're just going to hear that the regulatory environment is delaying things so much and rising.
Well, you can wear that hat here.
That rising cost of everything involved. I just was at an HBAV fundraising event for their PAC this week as well. I just saw all the slides, and they're real, and it's a problem.
Jerry knows this number. How much of percentage of a new construction is cost of regulatory?
24%. Neil Williamson says, who restricts the supply of housing? He's obviously alluding to local government, and he says expand the development area. I'll add some color and context to his comment. 5% of Albemarle County is allocated for development, and of that 5%, the topography limits what can be developed within that 5% area. Basically, not all 5% can be used.
And some of it is already commercial or industrial space, so that 5% is never 5%.
I push back on expanding the 5% development area by highlighting the need to also prioritize infrastructure like schools and roads while expanding the developmental area as well. I highlight the Western feeder system, which is a fantastic area, and values of real estate have really escalated because the schools are tremendous. But you look at a lot of the schools in the Western feeder educational area, and they're at capacity or beyond. And a lot of young parents like me are asking questions, hey, why are schools like this? Why are kids learning in educational trailers when 15 years ago or so they were not? That worries people like me.
Western Albemarle and Crozet growth area in particular is where this whole thing is playing out in real time.
100%.
Community level, ground level, talk about the need for infrastructure has never been louder and more organized. This stat, I just helped someone who wanted to build a single family home in a urbanist community in Crozet, which most of them are. And what I determined at that point in time is right now in Crozet, if you want to build a single family detached home in a community, there are 2 available lots on the ground to build a home on. So they'll be gone in the next 30 days and then there'll be none. And there won't be any more till next year if the developer is giving a timeline they can achieve.
Yeah, but, and they're let's call it like they're holding on to them. They're very, very strategically releasing inventory. To Jerry's point, development, this is always a 3-legged stool. There's always 3 other components that have to come with this: transportation, the healthcare system, and education, right? Those things kind of work concurrently with development. Yes, we have to build more, but you do have to work on those 3 legs concurrently to go get that way. It's why the Regional Housing Partnership was formed, because people weren't talking to each other. The local governments were not talking to the developers. The developers were not talking, or they were using different languages. I know this sounds a little high level, but I think we're making some excellent progress in those conversations. I don't think it's translating on the ground yet, but hopefully we'll get there.
And Dave, you jump in here anywhere you want to go, but I want to highlight what Greg said. I think he's 1,000% right. This infrastructure development crossroad is front and center in Crozet. You had a supervisor candidate and Brad Rickel, who challenged Whitehall's Ann Malik, who's 5 straight terms on Albemarle County Board of Supervisors. It's not about politics on this program.
No.
I respect you too much here.
Yeah.
Maybe
But
someone will say term limits should be in play when you've been on the board for 5 straight years. That's me talking right there, and I'll leave it alone. But Mr. Rickel, along with Eric Schmitz and Jeff Stone, with their Crozet United newsletter, were highlighting some of the projects that are happening in Crozet with the connector. And a lot of people, I think, because of social media, are more in tune with what's happening development-wise than ever before. And a lot of people are asking questions, hey, what's going on here? And I think that's for the betterment of the community.
It is.
Don't you think?
Well, yes.
Transparency is for the betterment of the community.
We have to highlight our problems along with the opportunities.
Right.
And the challenge in that infrastructure development conversation, you can look at it from both ways. Sometimes you need the development. People are always like, well, we want more restaurants and things in Crozet. And as a small business owner in Crozet, I'm like, well, it's not that easy to be successful in Crozet, right? You have to be able to draw from outside of it. Some of these businesses won't survive until Crozet's bigger. And some of the resources you need to create or to improve the infrastructure connection points of Crozet that, look, I lived there before Jarman's Gap was redeveloped. When Jarman's Gap became wider with sidewalks and bike lanes, that changed that side of Crozet forever. And there is a plan for these other pieces to fall in place, but just like affordable housing, you come back to the same thing, is where's the money to do it?
I mean, you take somebody who lives in, and I'll stop talking here, pass it to you guys. Take someone who lives in Liberty Hall, across from Harris Teeter, that's looking to turn left and come into town. That's a tough turn for a family trying to make that left and to come into town. I just moved to the Ivy area. If we're taking a left, coming into town, going across those lanes, that's tough when you have, you've seen it in the morning, Greg. What do you got, hundreds, thousands of cars coming down Ivy Road trying to come into town from Crozet?
That's true. Yeah, I think of Belvedere. Taking a left turn out of Belvedere has been one of the toughest places for years. So, yeah.
Yeah, I actually go out through the Free State Road and zip around. Look, this isn't easy, folks, right? This is complicated. It's a ton of moving parts. And again, I'm not trying to, Yona always accuses me of oversimplifying things. But if we actually have a conversation with one another and respect one another and try to move the needle forward for the betterment of everybody, I'm going to ask Neil if he's still watching, because I can't remember the number. I'm talking about my home county. It's somewhere between 95 and 97.
I think the number is 96% county budget tied to rooftop taxes.
So residential tax base basically covers 95, 97%. I want to be clear about this, of the county's portion of the budget. That doesn't mean the money they get from the state or the feds. This is the county portion of the budget. As a resident there, I have, and I've said this numerous times on the show, this is the first time since I've been there since 1987, my amount of money I pay out of my taxes, the cash amount, equals to if I was in Glenmore. I'm paying the same amount of cash out. And why is that? Because I don't have anything else in my county to offset, or large enough to offset the expenses on it. This trend is going to continue, and I'll get off my soapbox here in a minute. We're very blessed. My mother and father are going to be able to move into there at this point in their life. They're in their I won't give the number because my mother will kill me because she watches the show. She's 35. I'm 60-something. I don't know how that math works, but she's 35. But this aging population, they have no place to go. We're very lucky. to have them live with us.
So, we've been talking about sort of how to add infrastructure in these outlying areas, and I think the flip side of that is look where we do have infrastructure and look where we can accommodate more density, which is in the urban core,
Sure.
not just the city, but the urban ring of Albemarle County.
Sure.
And so we've had this very interesting conversation over the last couple of years about the rezoning the city to allow more density,
Sure.
to support more walkability, public transportation, commercial growth, creative infill development. And getting back to sort of one of the potential roles of the foundation is there's a lot of confusion right now about what this new zoning ordinance allows and what kind of incentives are in place or tools in place to create more density and to create more affordability potentially, hopefully. And so we have an education committee at the foundation that's looking at how do we play a role, how can we play a role in helping to educate property owners, developers, real estate folks.
And include the city in that, by the way.
Absolutely.
Because I've had conversations with Roger, the land trust is looking at, the city's trying to figure this out.
Exactly. We're all trying to figure it out, and I think we could play a helpful role.
Yeah, no, we talked about before the show started there, the pioneers who are taking on the rezoning process, hopefully, and some of them have already agreed to it.
Shout out to Rod.
We need case studies that we can make
Exactly.
examples of. It's the same way we were doing with affordable housing back in 2006 or 7 when the proffered affordable, we said, look, we're going to go build these proffered affordable homes and we're going to bring it back to you and show you what happened. And I think that's one of the things that we hope to be able to do at the foundation is be a source of connecting the dots.
Yeah.
But just to be straight up about it, I do not, and I've said this publicly, I do not see the city rezoning being substantially impactful on affordable housing right out of the box. This is going to be
No, it's going to
years-
take time.
years
Yep.
down the line. To Greg's point, we need to solve this now. These leeways between the developers doing it, some of the outside counties, the city new city ordinances. It's just everybody needs to be patient. It's going to take time.
But I think about when, we talk a lot in this community about gentrification, right, and displacement. And I think about if you've got a long-time moderate income homeowner in a neighborhood like 10th and Page, Fifeville, who wants to stay in the neighborhood, wants to stay in the community, wants to keep their home, right now is being priced out and taxed out. They can't afford to do so. But if you can create the conditions where they are able to add an accessory unit in their either as an attached or detached and accessory unit, not only does that generate more income for them to be able to stay in their home and in the community, but it also creates additional inventory of affordable rental housing. So it's a win-win, and this new ordinance helps to encourage that. And if we can, again, find those case studies and find those examples and those tools to allow more homeowners to take advantage of that, it could be a real...
If I can add a little context on that, someone who's getting gentrified out of 10th and Page in Fifeville, an ADU in the backyard, probably looking at $250,000 to $300,000 price point to build. And
If you're talking about a detached,
Carriage house.
Carriage
Yeah.
house,
Yeah.
but it doesn't have to be that.
yeah,
I mean,
it could be basement apartment to help subsidize some overhead.
I can tell you, I'm budgeting out one in my just in Flavanna
And
County.
you're probably at $100,000 at least, aren't you?
I'm at $1.50
Yeah, for a basement apartment.
for a basement apartment.
Yeah.
And that's with people I know.
Right, and that's with you having an advantage with, you had the structure pretty much, and you were a general contractor. You're
I'm a
Class A
Class A
contractor.
contractor. Yeah,
Yeah.
we took the detached off the table very quickly because it had a 2 in front of it.
Right, and the ROI on 2.5, $300,000 ADU in the backyard is never.
Yeah, you do it because you love your mother and father, and then you want them close to them. That's why, and you're blessed to be able to do this. But Fifeville, little off the record stuff. We meaning the land trust, is working with a homeowner over there who owns their home free and clear. We're actually going to put a land lease underneath it, so it's going to be forever affordable, and work on an ADU in the backyard, which as a nonprofit, those numbers work a little bit better for us because we can then lean on vendors and subcontractors to be a little bit more
Generous. Yeah.
Well, it also helps that they get write-offs because we're a nonprofit.
Well, that's a great example. One of the reasons, look, it's the
But those are
foundation.
phone calls we're getting.
We have to take a broad look at things. And we're in our first year of having a strategic plan and really look, we're built out the committee structure. We don't have a
Yeah.
website yet. That's in the works. We just hired somebody to help us with that. We're getting to the point where we actually start asking for our members to, we're in the very early stages. So we have a very broad, but when it comes to the land trust is a Swiss Army knife of solutions, right? That can create opportunities to make a little bit of an impact here. And that's one of the reasons we're here, and one of the reasons we had an event for you guys is because we believe in it, and we want our membership to understand what it is, because that really, truly understanding what a community land trust can do is the first step.
So the three of us, and I'm not going to make an assumption for Jerry, know what it means to start from the ground up a nonprofit in a 501c3. And kudos to you. To do that in a year?
Yeah,
Well, it's been 3. I was trying,
Yeah, but once you took over chairmanship, did you not?
this year, well, we got to the strategic plan and we decided, when you have a strategic plan, next step is hire an executive director or build a business plan. Not
Well, the
everybody has.
in-between step is get the money to hire.
We had the money. That was the blessing. We were a working board before that, and I can tell you, we went from driving 10 miles an hour to 100 miles an hour when Dave showed up. His
working board
reputation and his experience
100%.
has
Great guy you hired him.
impactful in ways we are still starting to understand ourselves. There was a moment in our board meeting yesterday where someone just stopped to say, "Oh my goodness, thank God we have Dave." I mean,
You realize he's sitting here, right?
I know, but
You realize
he hears it all. He hears it, and he should hear it again. I mean, the
We're lucky
realtors
to-
have
we're
always
lucky to have you.
The realtors have always wanted a louder role in the affordable housing conversation, and we haven't ever actually achieved it. And I think with
You
the
got it now.
foundation,
You've got a
creation
platform and like
this
a megaphone now.
This leadership and the knowledge that Dave brings to the table and the history that he brings to the table, it's a shortcut, honestly, for helping our. I can talk about all the things I do, the other board members can, but when Dave lays things out from his perspective, it's easy to get a faster understanding of what we need to do.
And I'm not saying this because he's here, but there's a skill that you need to have to manage boards, and you definitively have that. And it resonates from being mayor and.
I got a question for you, and I apologize for
Yeah.
interrupting you here.
No.
The new zoning ordinance, the affordable housing requirements, if a developer is building building a project of 9 units or more, 10% of those units must be tied to 60% AMI for 99 years. Can the foundation act almost as a policy or lobbying or encouraging group to talk with local government and say, hey, some of these elements of the NZO need to be tweaked because they're actually doing the opposite of creating affordability? Like, because what
Yeah.
developer is going to want to do a project like this?
Yeah, I've
Well, you
already had
can't.
conversations.
Physically,
That,
you
it doesn't
can't.
pencil out.
You can't do it.
Yeah.
Actually, Charlie Armstrong from Southern Development was over at our building recently for a meeting, and he and I put our heads together afterwards. Like, these tools have potential, but there are flaws. And if you really want to see impact and additional inventory in a real meaningful way, we've got to fix some of these flaws. And so, yeah, our foundation has an advocacy, a mission, and a mechanism, and so that's not one that we've taken up yet as a potential advocacy campaign or initiative, but I think I could easily see us doing something like that. I don't want to speak for our board yet because we haven't talked about it, but
We want to be in the policy influence space. There's no doubt.
Well,
that's
that's
fantastic, because Brian Pixton said when the zoning ordinance was passed, he goes, look, this is a living and breathing document.
exactly.
Which I found encouraging. He's basically saying this can be changed.
And it can be, and again, everybody must be reading my notes. The zoning ordinances are always living documents.
Sure.
Right? And Lloyd Snook was the mayor at the time, sat
Just walk by.
I saw.
in one of these seats and said, look, we're going to tweak this. And that's usually what happens, right? It usually gets tweaked. There's another part that makes this difficult, is anything above 3 requires a major site plan.
That's what Charlie said, yeah.
That,
Is an obstacle.
as the developer.
And isn't that why Roger kept it at 3? The project he's doing in Woolly Mills.
That's exactly right,
Yeah.
because the requirements are.
And still those units that are coming on market are coming in with the high 6s.
You might as well say, okay, I'm going to do 500 units there. The amount of work, maybe I'm exaggerating a little bit, but the amount of work and what you have to do, and that's some low-hanging fruit. They can start tweaking that and go, okay, let's make it 6. Do something to make it easier to go ahead and go through this. But it is just the erosion and control portion of that is off the charts. it'll take a year. It'll take a year from this project that we're trying to do. The Land Trust is working on a 6-unit affordable housing unit under this. It'll take us a year just to go through the site plan process.
Which is bananas.
A year.
The risk and the carrying costs and the market dynamic change in that time of,
And we've got
that's
excellent,
so much risk.
and
right
we
there.
have partners that are willing to wait. If we didn't, you do 3 units and you.
Look, and Dan Rosenswag talks about this a lot with Habitat for Humanity about
Habitat CEO.
Right, Habitat CEO about just the increased cost, the financial cost of those delays. It's not just about,
Well, it's back to that 24%.
right. Exactly.
That's part of that
Yeah.
24%.
And so, and if your goal is to create affordable housing, this is acting directly against that goal.
There's a realtor watching the program that just left a comment. His name is Luke Cole. Luke, I believe you are with Long and Foster, if memory serves
Luke
correct.
made some big time magic happen.
303 Alderman Road in the Lewis Mountain
Yeah.
neighborhood. That came on market at $1 million list price, and it traded at $835,000 with Evergreen Builders buying 303 Alderman Road for $835,000. I want to follow that as a case study with the new zoning ordinance. Evergreen is a very reputable builder, fantastic builder. If Evergreen takes an $835,000 acquisition and then brings it on market after some remodel, some improvement at $1.4, $1.5, because Lewis Mountain would justify those kind of price points. $1.4, $1.5.
Well, they turned it into student housing.
Or do they turn it into density? Because how he marketed that property was the zoning potential, the upzoning potential, the new zoning potential. If it comes on the market as 1.4 or 1.5, then the new zoning ordinance actually worked opposite for affordability, because the acquisition price was higher because of the land, the opportunity associated with the land.
So we're gonna eat through this in the next 12, 24 months, right?
He has a comment for the panel as well. Go ahead, Keith.
Yeah, it's the next 12, 24 months. This could be a buy and hold, right? Buy, hold it, see what, and we don't know because we're not.
I can't imagine they're going to hold this.
They can buy it. Yeah, sure they can. I mean, if they got the capital, they can buy and hold it, right? And wait to see what happens with the zoning ordinances and then start tweaking it. Right now, everybody's holding their breath for Roger, for these 3 or 4 people or entities that are going through this, so everybody can figure out exactly how to do this.
And Roger said the only way he could do his Woolen Mills project
He
was to
owns it.
partner with, he owns the land,
sure.
he partnered with Richard Price, the
Yep.
architect, he
Yep.
partnered with a local builder,
Yep.
sold them the lots where the new houses are going to go below market value as a discount or as no charge for their time,
But
their
that's-
architectural time and their building time.
But that's not going to put something on the market at 225.
No, it's going to come in at 680.
Yeah.
Luke says this, to allow for more affordable housing, does the panel imagine that some of the rules and regulations in order to maximize density on these lots will be revised to work with developers to implement these changes?
I almost think it has to.
Has to.
Hopefully, there's a subjective level of a range of what can be decided based on what's being done and what will happen, right? This is the same way other affordable housing gets created. If you hit certain income levels for who you're going to serve, you get more houses.
And again, especially where the infrastructure is in place to accommodate it.
Local government guy, right? You understand how local government works better than anybody at this table. I kind of look at some of this stuff as similar to like a non-funded mandate, an unfunded mandate, right? So the state says, this is what you've got to do. Good luck, local jurisdictions, figure it out. So this is happening. We figured out a plan. The market's trying to work together with the city to figure out the best way to tweak this. It will change. There's no doubt about that. When is the question, right? And once these projects go through and the people that are like Rogers, who's out there sticking their necks out and taking the risk to do this, they should get kudos on a regular basis because they're the ones that are setting the template for
I think
everybody.
Roger might be the first one
No, he is. I know he is.
first
for a
that
fact.
does this.
We call that a pioneer.
Jason,
Or maybe not. Maybe something
Roger
else.
is an uncommonly good guy. Like he's
Roger
just-
Poison is A-plus guy.
Oh,
Yeah,
solar
A-plus
guy, dude.
I like that.
hockey
Uncommonly
guy.
good guy. I like that. I got to remember
Yeah,
that.
Roger and I traveled to Africa together once. He's
Really?
Yeah,
Cool.
yeah. So he's
Jason Howard on Rio Road. Has there been any talk of expanding? This is right up your alley here, Dave. Has there been any talk of expanding the real estate tax relief program to help keep long-term residents in their homes as prices and corresponding taxes increase?
Yeah, that was one of Mayor Walker's big pushes when she was in office, was to make sure that that tax relief program was robust enough to allow longtime renters to be able to stay in the neighborhoods. They did expand it significantly. Can it be expanded more? Can we get state permission to expand it more? I think that's an ongoing conversation. I know, I have a feeling this council would like to see that expanded.
But we're a Dillon Roll state. so-
Exactly,
so-
yeah. So yeah, I think that's one of the tools in the tool chest is,
Well, they have Albemarle and the city of Charlottesville have a unique ordinance that's already on the books, because if they wrap it into their affordable housing project, they can actually do that unilaterally.
you'll notice, I don't know if you've noticed this before, but the way it's framed in the city code isn't necessarily tax relief, I forget the exact wording, but it's a grant program.
Yeah.
It's, and that was deliberate because the state code, state law allows localities to issue affordable housing grants, but it doesn't allow them to have explicit.
There's always a little workaround, isn't there?
It was a workaround, and we got it done. And so yeah, it's one of the tools. Certainly will be helpful.
So as these things usually go, we are up a little bit.
I know,
past-
the show is fantastic.
We're usually-
an hour in.
We're an hour in
You guys are great.
from chatting. We can continue a little bit longer if Jerry's good with that.
Yeah.
But I have a 11:45 meeting that I've got to make, so I've got to wrap up here in about 10 minutes. But as we're kind of wrapping up here, I first of all want to say thank you, gentlemen, for joining us.
Absolutely.
Thank you for putting the time and energy in for the foundation for CAR. Again, this is one of these tiny little pellets that are in this silver buckshot. There's not a silver bullet here. Keep up the good work, and I'll let you guys wrap up and whatever you want to say from there, and Jerry will close us out.
The foundation is just getting going. It's in our first year. To our realtor colleagues out there watching and listening, we want to engage with you, and we want to help you understand what we're doing and what we're trying to achieve so we can earn your trust and support, both from a volunteer standpoint and a financial standpoint. We're already lucky enough to have a board that's a little bit competitive to get on. We're not a board where we're sitting around waiting to see if we can find some people to fill the seats, and that's a real positive. To the other nonprofits in the area, we want to hear from you, and we want to understand what you're doing. We are trying to get a holistic view of the entire landscape so we can collectively work together and learn about places where we can be the most effective, where we can be the little bit extra an organization needs to get something done or to get the word out or to be supportive. We are not hyper-focused on any model. We're just hyper-focused on being a part of finding solutions. And if you're a member of the general public and you are interested in the affordable housing conversation and you don't know where to go with your resources or where to donate, we'll be happy to consult.
I've got a place.
Right. You've got a place, but maybe it's the foundation at some point, right? Because
I could put out a
A
bank
link
account
right
number.
now.
You can wire anything you want.
But we hope to earn the trust of the community in general to be a place where we collaborate and pool resources to do the things. We have done the research. There are real estate association foundations across the country, and most of them are able to do good things by raising money and doing things in the $5,000, $10,000, $15,000 grant world, and hopefully we'll be doing some of those things too. But right now, at this stage of the game, our vision is much larger and our goals are much higher, and we're trying to get the word out.
yeah, I'll just add to that. Well said. I'll just add to that. The housing affordability problem in our community, in our region, is not going to solve itself. And particularly when you see what's happening with the market, particularly when you see the opposition, the not in my backyard opposition that comes up when you talk about things like rezoning and folks that are opposed to some of the changes that are coming down the pike. It's not an easy problem to solve. And so it takes courage, it takes dedication, it takes money, it takes collaboration, it takes vision. And so I'm just proud to be at the table with these two gentlemen who've been doing that work and been fighting the good fight. And I think, we're never going to solve it overnight, but I think working together, and again, with the support of the realtor community, with the support of the broader community, we can make a real impact. And again, there's so many people that are struggling for lack of affordable housing. They're having to make very difficult life choices for lack of affordable housing. And we need to make it better for people in our community.
So for everybody who's watching and listening, I've been trying to figure out, and I welcome a text or phone call from anybody. I've been trying to do a YIMBY, NIMBY roundtable, right? Yes, in my back time, not my back, to have two folks from different opinions and then have it moderated by us and move the discussion on. So anybody in either one of those camps, reach out. We'd love to schedule a show to
This
do
is an
that.
awesome show. I just saw on the feed from Roger's beautiful wife, Jessica, that today's Roger's birthday.
Oh,
happy birthday, Roger.
Happy birthday, Roger Voisinet, and an uncommonly good man.
He
Is
is
a
an
perfect
uncommonly good
description
man.
from Dave Norris. Judah Wickower behind the camera is another uncommonly good man.
The
We love
best.
Judah Wickower. For Greg Slater and Dave Norris and our star Keith Smith, this is Real Talk with Keith Smith on a Friday. Thank you guys for joining us on the program, and so long. Excellent. You will let us know when the mics and camera are off here. 1 second. Judah, give us the...